It's business, all business. Deliveries were existing before this. It's not new. I'm sorry to say this, but Dmitry Peskov, and that is the spokesperson for the Kremlin for Putin, just nailed it. It's all business and who is going to pay for it. And the reason I'm focusing on that is because we're hearing the same story out of the European Union as well from Kaja Kallas. And ladies and gentlemen, this deal to supply Ukraine with weapons apparently has taken the European Union by a little bit of surprise. So we're going to get into all of that. I've got all of what is unfolded in the last 12 to 16 hours. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting. It helps us so much, and we appreciate each and every one of you. As you can see in the thumbnail, thanks from Putin, not impressed from Xi, and yes, China has spoken. Macron in the back looking surprised, the Ukrainian map. This is where we're at today, July the 16th, 2025. Let's jump straight in. Peskov made the statement, and I have the video for you. As you can see, I voiced it over. Who will pay? This is not new. At least 4 EU countries have decided not to participate currently in the U.S. arms procurement initiative for Kyiv. And this is either officially stated by the government or through multiple media reports. Media reporting that 2 major European Union states, France and Italy, are unable to pay due to various reasons. France wanting to do their own weapons initiatives. We're seeing some of that stuff. The Czech Republic doing their own thing, they're saying right now. Peter Pavel and Hungary, of course, with Viktor Orban, have officially announced their refusal to participate in the procurement. The Czech Prime Minister explained that assistance to Kyiv would be provided through other means. And I love Peter Pavel, so let's don't throw Czech under the bus. They've been a huge help for Ukraine. To date, Germany, Sweden, UK, and Denmark, as I understand right now, have expressed their intention to join the initiative. So this is what Peskov said about it. It's business, all business. Deliveries were existing before this. It's not new. No one stopped delivery earlier. Yes, they were just happening. The question is, who will pay? Some Europeans will pay now. I've heard the French don't want to pay. The Czechs don't want to pay. They'll have many disagreements as well. Now, how much to pay? How much to pay? And citizens will get nothing. And that's the narrative that he will run by. And you can see him looking down at the reporter and the gloating eyes. You know, who's going to pay? Who's going to pay? Citizens are going to get nothing, and they're pushing that rhetoric onto European citizens as well as other people around the world, you know, making this all about business. And of course, that's the avenue that Donald Trump is pursuing, this, a transactional business. We're going to sell weapons, even our old weapons, to the European Union or to NATO. Through NATO, we're going to come through NATO and into Ukraine, and, you know, we're going to take care of those guys. That's the story right now. But you know what? It's now that in the United States, we have a saying that, like, the sweet has been licked off of your sucker. You know, it's like now that we're getting down to some ability to analyze what is absolutely unfolding, it's a little strange, to be quite honest. And we're seeing that not everybody is jumping up and down about this great plan to supply Ukraine. And we're thankful for it, but there's much more complexity to it than just simply stating, hey, Europe's going to buy weapons, NATO's going to buy weapons, and they're heading to Ukraine. No, it's much more complex. Let's look at this one right here. Kaja Kallas. She is Estonian, former prime minister, and now she is the foreign minister for the European Union. She says, if you were only the provider of the weapons in a business-like deal, then it is not actually you that are providing the weapons. It is the ones who are purchasing the weapons. And she made this statement in regard to a press question at a meeting about this deal with the United States. And here's her response.
Well, if we pay for these weapons, it's our support. So it's European support. And we are doing as much as we can to help Ukraine, and therefore the call is that everybody would do the same. It's if you promise to give the weapons but say that somebody else who is going to pay for it, it's not really given by you, is it?
Isn't that a logical statement? Now, what are your thoughts on that? I'm really looking forward to reading your comments, interacting with you on the messages there. What are your thoughts on that? I think she's accurate because even in the United States and a part of the far hard right MAGA, they're bailing. Like MTG Marjorie Taylor Greene says, no. Regardless, it's still a problem here. This is not going to work, and we'll see what unfolds. That's, you get the announcement, you get an excited surge, Ukraine is going to get some help, and that's what we so desperately need. But when you begin to look at the details of it, here's another section of details. Mark Rutte then goes on Fox News and other networks and says, you know what, if you're India, if you're China, if you're Brazil, you need to pick up the phone and you need to call Vladimir Putin because in 50 days, your economy is going to be wrecked. Well, guess what? Xi Jinping is not impressed. It didn't move the needle at all. And there's already such a huge conflict between Brazil and the United States. It's not moving the needle at all. And I can tell you that the Indian Foreign Ministry Department is in China right now with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. So it's, be careful what you ask for. But here we have an official response from China back to Rutte. He says, the China Foreign Ministry rejects NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte's warning about a secondary U.S. sanction against China, Brazil, and India for supporting trade ties with Russia. Beijing called on the NATO chief for dialogue, emphasizing that there are no winners in trade wars and it is not our responsibility to mediate in your conflicts. This is response to Rutte citing U.S. President Donald Trump threatened secondary sanctions against China, Brazil, India, while recommending they call Putin. So we're seeing this economic war surface and come to the top between BRICS and the West. And in the middle, Ukraine getting smashed every day. Every day. So this is the reaction from China. Now you know that. Now, let's get to another piece that we need to understand that is not good. Okay? This is not good. This is not how you fight this war. Lindsey Graham dropping a statement. The president's announcement yesterday about sending American-made weapons paid for by Europeans to Ukraine through NATO was welcome news. Remember, this is the same Lindsey Graham who wanted to continue to bomb Iran and jumped up and down about that. Equally important was his statement that if fighting had not ended in 50 days. Now, this is Senator Lindsey Graham. Yes, the Graham who's writing the bill with Blumenthal and goes to Kyiv all the time. Listen to this rhetoric. Equally important was his statement that if fighting had not ended in 50 days, he would impose up to 100% tariffs on countries buying cheap Russian oil, propping up Putin's war machine, hitting Putin where it hurts the most. Okay, no problem there. If Putin and others are wondering what happens on day 51, I would suggest they call the Ayatollah. If I were a country buying cheap Russian oil, propping up Putin's war machine, I would take President Trump at his word. So here's where I struggle with that. Throwing out random threats that we're going to put our B-2s in the air and bomb you, Russia, like we did Iran, that is not how you deal with Russia. Yes, we have to deal with strength. We have to deal with power. We have to deal with economics. But here's how you deal with Russia. You don't throw out rhetoric, okay? You just do it. Because when you throw out rhetoric, they index everything. They analyze everything, and then they fight back through the propaganda. So it's not a problem that, hey, we'll bomb Moscow like we bombed Iran. Okay, great. Don't talk about it. Just do it. You see, there's a big difference when you're dealing with the Russians. Margarita Simonyan responded, Lindsey Graham, if Putin and others, she's in the red box here, are wondering what happens on day 51, I would suggest they call the Ayatollah, is what you said. So the U.S. is going to hold fake talks, then try to assassinate our negotiators and bomb our capital through a proxy anyway. This stick card, this stick and carrot business is harder than it looks for some. This is the response already. And what's further concerning is Mike Pompeo, the former CIA director under the first Trump administration. He's on the news circuits now. And guys, don't misunderstand me. The only way to defeat Russia is through military strength and through economic sanctions, destroy their economy, but they must implode from within. Just rhetoric does nothing. And if you've made it this far, listen here, because it's Lindsey Graham calling out the 51st day, but it was just 12 hours ago that Donald Trump on video, you can look at my former video, a previous video where he says, you know, it may not be 50 days. It could be less. So we have to be extremely careful how we do this. It's like Zelensky says, peace through strength, but you don't talk rhetoric. You have action. Here's what Mike Pompeo said.
We saw what the president did yesterday. I think Putin should take seriously what he saw happen in Iran. That
Same
is
rhetoric.
A powerful United States response trying to deter our adversaries and build out a peace regime. That's the president's goal. He's been pretty consistent, Dana, on this for the entirety of his presidency, including in his first 4 years where we put real pressure on Vladimir Putin. It shouldn't surprise anyone that Vladimir Putin lied to President Trump. He lies to everyone. Now we can see that there is a pathway to getting peace. And I think what President Trump announced yesterday alongside General Secretary Rutte, the head of NATO, was a closer, deeper, bigger step towards peace than we have seen so far.
Okay. So there you see Mike Pompeo talking about the pathway towards peace, but he still throws out the same rhetoric about Iran and the strikes that were done on Iran. That's what you're talking about there. But see, when you're talking about striking Russia that way, you're talking about a completely different set of circumstances. You're talking about nuclear powers. You're talking about an entire world-changing event. And if you're going to talk the talk, all I'm suggesting is you better be able to walk the walk. And that is unfortunately not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And Russia knows it. Vladimir Putin knows it. China knows it. So right now, that rhetoric does not help us get towards peace. What helps us get towards peace is action. Action, action, action in all spheres: economic, military support for Ukraine, external pressures, sanctions, and working to implode that Kremlin regime from within. That's how you do it. Now, while all of that rhetoric's going on, this is what is happening, guys. 3 major strikes last night, and one I really want you to pay attention to. First of all, Kharkiv was massively struck. That's in the upper right of the map there. And then more in the central Ukraine, that is Kryvyi Rih. Kryvyi Rih was hit with a combination of shaheeds and missiles, and a large portion of the city was de-energized as infrastructure was hit. Water pressure pumping stations, electrical generation, all of that. And Kryvyi Rih is a large city, the home city of President Vladimir Zelensky. And it's about 100 kilometers long. And it took serious strike. But you can see the arrow there pointing over to the city of Vinnytsia. We do not talk about Vinnytsia a lot, but that is actually an image from Vinnytsia, the regional administration there. You can see that factory on on fire. But here's the deal about that factory. That factory is Polish. And the Foreign Ministry of Poland has already responded. This is the Barlanek Group factory in Vinnytsia, that now the war has come to the doorstep of Poland because our factory has been struck and now completely destroyed, to be honest with you. And, you know, that takes us back to the other thing. If we just put business everywhere, the war will end because Russia will never strike foreign countries' businesses. Yeah, well, how's that working for you? I've been so many times in Ukraine walking on the rubble of foreign businesses that have been leveled to the ground. Now, that brings us to the last thing, and this one you need to hear. This was shared by Anton Gerashenko and others, because this is what happens when you throw out 50 days. This is what happens when you throw out threats that on day 51 will do to you what we did to Iran. This is what you'll hear. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, what I just showed you right here, it happens every day. So be careful how you deal with this ugly bear. During these 50 days, what can we do to persuade Ukraine to conclude a peace agreement on the terms that meet the goals, the principles, and the objectives of the special military operation? we can launch massive strikes against Ukraine's critical infrastructure. And I emphasize once again that this primarily means power generation facilities. For example, any Russian frontline fighter jet using new generation cruise missiles, the stealth KH-69s, they are capable of hitting and accurately destroying any thermal power plant or oil refinery or fuel depot in a first strike without attracting the attention of enemy intelligence. Weakening the potential of the AFU's rear stability system will force Ukraine to accept Russia's terms. It is necessary to maximize the intensity of Russian strikes, which are currently comprehensive and large scale. But in general, I emphasize once again, to achieve the objectives of the SVO, Ukrainian power generation facilities, oil refineries, and fuel depots in a situation of real combat operations are legitimate military targets for destruction, and there are no restrictions on striking them, nor can there be any. So there you have it, and that's just from last night's statement. So when you throw out these threats, this is a very complicated war and very difficult to understand for those that have had little experience with that Soviet Russian mentality. And I'm just concerned that if we're not able to back up all the threats that are rolling around for the last 48 to 72 hours, that this could be detrimental. And I'm hoping not, but we tell you the truth here. And I'm interested. What are your thoughts and comments on it? I can tell you that right now you can see the air alarm that are going off in Ukraine right this minute. Early evening there in Ukraine as I'm recording this. Chernihiv, Sumy, Poltava, and Kharkiv under air alarm right now. So guys, that's where we're at. This is the analysis that we have. And unfortunately, we can really say it's all business, but it's not just business for Ukraine. It's life or death. And it's not just business for you and I as we support and fight for the truth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing and liking and commenting, and we'll be back at you.